What is up, guys? Welcome back. No face cam today. You guys don't get to see this sexy, beautiful teacher teaching you guys right now. Today, I'm going to teach you how to take it one step past the ANOVA analysis. So the ANOVA analysis, or hypotheses, I don't know the term when you have more than one hypothesis, but our null hypothesis is that all the means are equal. And alternatives, not all the population means are equal. So maybe group 1 is equal to group 3, but not equal to group 2. Or maybe 2 and 3 are equal, but maybe group 1 isn't. Or maybe they're just all different. I'm going to teach you guys how to compare all those means and show you which ones are equal and which ones are not. So in this homework question, I'm in Stats 3500 now, last math class of my entire life, unless I decide to change majors. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, if at all. So this is the last math class, guys. After my freshman year of college, I am done. So in this math homework question, it says the International League of AAA Minor League Baseball consists of 14 teams organized into 3 divisions: North, South, and West. The following data shows the average attendance for the 14 teams in the International League. Also shown are the team's record. W denotes the number of games won, L denotes the number of games lost, and PCT is the proportion games played that were won. Well, let's see what they want us to do. So with the alpha of 0.05, test if there's a difference between the attendance and 3 divisions. Our null hypothesis stays the same because we are running an ANOVA analysis, and this is our hypothesis statements for single factor ANOVA tests, ANOVA analysis, I guess I should say, because it's not really a test. So all this information we found in part A was given to us through the ANOVA analysis. If you don't know how to run an ANOVA analysis, go check out one of the videos I did. I taught you how to do it in Excel and in R. So whichever program you prefer, go check those out. Link will be provided in the description. Now, with moving on to part B, we have to determine with the alpha 0.05 which ones are different. So we're going to compare north, south, and west. We're going to see which ones are different. So maybe this is the part where we're going to determine if is the north different from the south but equal to west. Are they all different? We're going to find out using the Fisher's LSD procedure. So we are comparing attendance to the division. So this team name, WL and PCT, are all just extra information. We really just need division and attendance. So opening our Excel sheet, here's our summary of our ANOVA analysis with our MSE and our degrees of freedom. Remember, these are from our within groups. And here we have our test. So this is a multi-step procedure. We have to calculate 1 over our sample size plus 1 over the sample size we're comparing it to, our difference of averages of our groups, our test statistic, and our p-value. So we are going to compare north and south right now, or we're going to do this calculation for north and the south right now. We're going to calculate 1 over G5 plus 1 over south. So here on this axis, it's our sample size, right? We have our count right here. 6 in the north, 4 in the south, 4 in the west. And then we do the same for our x-axis up here. Now we want to make these numbers static, so we can just drag and drop. We'd only take 1 over these values plus 1 over these values. So now we can just drag and drop. Boom. So if you notice that the south and the west are different, because notice the different sample size that they have. North and the south, we are taking 1 over 6 plus 1 over 4. Same with north and the west, but when we get to south and west, since they both have a sample size of 4, we get a different number. So now we are comparing the two the means of the two groups. So now we take this minus this, and we get 2,136.6. And again, we don't make these cells static, so we can drag and drop. Boom. And here we are going to find our values by taking the difference of each group and dividing it by the square root of our MSE, mean square error, multiplied by 1 over our sample size plus 1 over the sample size we're comparing it to. So equals J13, because that's the sample size between the sample difference between north and the south, divided by square root MSE. Alright, we don't make this static since I guess they don't make me type it out. 1 over B9 multiplied by J5, which is 1 over 6 plus 1 over 4. Double parentheses because I did parentheses for the whole denominator, so it groups it together. Just drag and drop. And now we find our p-value, and we're going to do t dot dist dot 2t is another two-tailed test. Remember, we're going to take our t value and put it with our degrees of freedom. Let's make this static because our degrees of freedom never change. So we have to do absolute value. There we go. We're looking for a 0.05 alpha, right? So this is less than our alpha, and this is less than our alpha, so we reject the null hypothesis. However, this is not smaller than our alpha. So north and south, north and west support the null hypothesis that they're equal, but north and south do not, and south and west do not. So now we take it over to our second step, where we're going to find the LSD value. So these two boxes are same basically that we just did, so let's copy those things over. Boom. Control C, Control V, and then same thing, Control C, Control V. I had these written in, so I'm just going to explain the formula. T.m.2t, because these are two-tailed tests and we're finding it on the x-axis. B12, because that's our alpha, and our B10 is our degrees of freedom, right? So just like how you normally do it in stats, but this time we're going to multiply it by the square root of our MSE times 1 over our sample size plus 1 over the sample size we are comparing to. So we get, in north versus south, we get 620.74, 620.74 in north and west, and then south is 1775.44. And you notice how the north and south and the north and west have the same LSD value is because, remember, their sample sizes are being compared the same. You got 6 in the north compared to 4 in the south and 4 in the west. 6 to 4, 6 to 4. But when you get to south and west, remember we have 0.5 here. Our denominator changes. One of our factors is changed to 0.5 instead of whatever 1 over 6 plus 1 over 4 is. So that is why you gotta be on the lookout for that. Your LSD value will change with different sample sizes. This is a long video. We are at 8 minutes right now, but hopefully you guys are learning something. And then to reject or not reject, our rejection rule is that if the absolute value of our differences is greater than LSD, we will reject. So equals if ABS, absolute value, if ABS, that is greater than our LSD value, we are going to print reject or do not reject, close parentheses. So we are going to reject that north and south, which is on par with what we said earlier because our p-value was smaller than alpha. Click and drag, do not reject, and then reject. So north and west again shows that they are equal, whereas north and south we don't reject the null hypothesis, which states that they are equal, as well as south and west. The one more way to compare these values is we're going to take our differences and add and subtract our LSD value to give us our confidence. So our lower values is going to be our difference minus our LSD value. And we can just click and drag. Don't have to make static references on these. And then our upper values is going to be our difference plus the LSD value. So we get that, and we get that. So our rejection rule, if it does include 0, if the interval does include 0, we do not reject. So here we see that it does not include 0 because it goes from positive to positive for the north and the south, and it goes negative to negative in south and west. But here with north and west, it crosses 0. It includes 0. So we do not reject the null hypothesis. So going back to our homework question, we found our LSD values, right? We found the difference between the averages of each group, and then we found which ones are significantly different. So that means which ones do not support the null hypothesis. And we found that the north and the west support the null hypothesis because it included 0 and our p-value was greater than alpha. So that supports the null hypothesis, leading that the north and the south, they're different. Their p-values were less and their interval did not include 0, as well as south and the west. So that's how we came to our conclusion. We found which groups had significant differences, and we now know, and that completes this homework. So if you like today's video, remember to like and subscribe. If you learned anything, I suggest share it with a friend. If you didn't learn anything, at least now you have the answers to homework 4. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.